common myth about health, nutrition, or fitness that you've learned is actually false. Story 1, that you can target fat by doing specific workouts. You can't. You can build muscle by doing specific workouts, but your body will burn fat from where it wants, not in that one area. Luckily, it's made weeding out the workout frauds much easier. Story 2, slightly off topic, but people haven't learned the recent news that we now believe we know what the appendix does. It's a backup storage for gut bacteria, so it can help replenish itself like after antibiotics. Story 3, lifting weights to get bigger and stronger doesn't have to be complicated. In fact, the most effective workout plans and routines are quite boring after a while. This idea that every session needs to be different or changed up for variety or target a very specific area of muscle growth is ultimately more trouble than it's worth. There's a reason 5x5 as a routine has been around forever. It's simple, boring, but effective. The hardest part is making it a consistent activity. Edit to add, well, this blew up. Okay, boring may not have been the best word for all you people hung up on semantics. Repetitive is the better word. And doing the same workout and working toward progressive overload can feel repetitive, and at times, when you don't feel like working out, it can get boring. Moral of the story: simplicity and consistency are your friends. The end: have fun. Story 4, natural means nothing. It's a logical fallacy. Arsenic is natural. Mercury is natural. Lots of natural things are toxic. Stop trying to convince me that something is good because it's natural. Oh, and that goes triple for chemicals that are used. Natural doesn't mean it's better. I recently read how a winery was using a natural herbicide. It's a lot more toxic than the artificial ones. They were poisoning people. Story 5, sim-related, that you only need 21 days to develop a habit. I see so many people giving up on exercise routines because they didn't develop it within a month, so they just assumed that it wasn't right for them. This is one of those pop psychology things where someone misinterpreted and completely simplified a study that was not even related to habits. They made a whole bunch of money off of it, and now everyone thinks that you should be able to develop habits in 21 days, or something is wrong with you. Story 6, being cold gives you a cold. Viruses cause colds, not chilly weather. In fact, some studies suggest that exposure to cold may even boost immune function. Story 7, when you shave your hair, do you senti grow back faster, longer, or darker? It's just all growing back at the same time, so it can look more full. If it did work like that, every bald man ever would shave their head every day. Story 8, that exercising lots is the best way to lose weight. In reality, diet ends up being more important, and high-impact exercise can often make weight loss harder as it makes you hungrier. Story 9, walking is pretty close to jogging in terms of calories burnt. Edit, I phrased this terribly. The myth is that jogging burns more calories than walking, when in reality, they burn very similar amounts when measuring by distance covered. Story 10, this goes out to all my fellow Balkan people. 1. Going out with your hair, what you'll get sick. 2. Walking barefoot around the house during the winter, you'll get sick. 3. A breeze in the winter if you open a lot of windows. Stiff neck, and you get sick. 4. Cold drinks, sore throat. 5. If stem 4 happens, a shot of Rakija will fix you right up. 6. When you are sick, you need to be covered with all the blankets in your house to sweat the illness out. Story 11, this is less of a specific myth and more of a huge pervasive misunderstanding. The amount of effort required to build muscle is generally higher than people think, and the amount you can build without the use of performance-enhancing drugs is much lower than people think. So many people don't lift because they don't want to be all muscular, as if they'll just magically blow up just from touching a barbell. And likewise, a ton of people still fully believe that with simply enough discipline and dedication, anyone can look like these big, shredded dudes all over social media or Hollywood actors playing superhero characters. I consider myself a very well-informed person and had no idea until I was nearly 30 just how many guys and women, even in normal gyms all around the country, are using steroids. Story 12, autism isn't more prevalent these days due to vaccines. It's because we learn more about it and are actually diagnosing people rather than burning them or throwing them into an asylum. Story 13, that calorie in your mouth is the same as the calories absorbed by your body. Research shows 98 of the calories in carbs are taken in and used by your body, 95 of the calories in fat, and only 92 of the calories from protein makes it past your digestive tract. So, you're shaving off a few calories simply because digestion and absorption aren't perfect. With plant-based foods, the absorption issue is even more unreliable. Many vegetables and fruits have hardy cell walls that are tough to break down. If your digestive tract can't crack open the cell walls, the inside of the plant cells where all the calories are can pass through your digestive tract without being absorbed. You see this mostly with raw foods. Cooking helps to break down stubborn plant cell walls so more of the calories inside are absorbed. Also, sugar absorption in the gut with fruits. The fiber from the fruit creates a mesh structure over the gut lining that prevents some of the sugars from getting absorbed into your body. Eating whole fruits is so much better than juice for blood sugars for this reason. Story 14 that you should get at least 10K steps a day. The myth comes from the number 10,000. When the first pedometers got popular, they maxed out at 10K steps. So, eventually that number just morphed into the ideal number you should supposedly get every day. That being said, 10K steps is a good reasonable goal that your average person can achieve. Story 15 myth dieting is temporary. Truth, losing weight is a whole lifestyle change. If you temporarily change your diet to lose XLBS and then change back to your normal diet, you're also going back to your normal weight to lose weight and keep it off. You need to change your relationship with food. Maybe you do need to change what you eat. Maybe you only need to eat less of it. Maybe you need to modify when you eat. Maybe you need to change macros. If you don't change your lifestyle, you'll go back to it. Story 16, this one is still somehow pervasive, but people believe that targeted fat loss exists when it does not. You cannot sit up and crunch your way to a flatter stomach. Exercising those muscles without reducing the fat will actually increase your size there. Story 17, women just need cardio. Wrong. Women need resistance strength training even more than men because of bone density issues at menopause, and resistance training is the primary means of increasing bone density. Story 18, almost any advice in isolation is at least half false. For instance, there are ethnic groups that can survive on salt quantities low enough that most people would have health problems. There are people who can have far more than most. There are salt-sensitive people who need less than what is best for most. But still, more than said earlier, ethnic groups. The idea that any of these things are true the way typically taught in the broad is barely a decent operating metric. Further, it ignores further complications like other things that interplay. Using the salt and similar electrolytes, one person's diet may make one deficient while their genetic twin's diet makes the same amount perfect. Due to the other intakes, whether it's carbs, protein, fats, cholesterol, vitamins, minerals, etc., it is so variable that often any of the advice may be meaningless to any person or group thereof. Story 19, that fat of any kind is bad, so go for low fat instead. The issue is that the low-fat version is packed with sugar instead, and fat keeps you fuller longer, so you wind up consuming more food and have worse blood sugar spikes. Story 20, that you shouldn't let a concussee go to sleep, provided they don't suddenly start dosing off unusually. It's totally fine to let a concussed person go to bed. They probably need a rest too after all that blunt head trauma, as opposed to being pointlessly kept awake by some who is not a doctor and just aggressively believe that it's bad for some reason. Source: I'm a giant, and I bang my head a lot on random, low-hanging objects at door frames. Story 21, you need 6 to 11 servings of carbohydrates a day. This was drilled into my head as a child in the 90s. Bananas are the best source of potassium. That's not true. Potatoes are higher, so much so that you can use them to make a battery. Edible potatoes are high in potassium, but that is not why they can be used to make a battery. I stand corrected, you must consume dairy products to get calcium. That's not true. You can get calcium from leafy greens. There is no biological need to consume dairy as an adult. Story 22, fat doesn't make you fat. Sugar and carbs make you fat. Any macronutrient in excess makes you fat. For most typical diets, the excess does come from carbs and sugars, but not always. You can get very fat eating high-calorie fatty foods, even with a low-sugar diet. Story 23, aspartame is bad for you. Aspartame is an artificial sweetener. It became known and used around the same time as saccharin came about here in the U.S. People mixed up the fact between these two sweeteners decades ago, and some never learned that saccharin was the one that was pulled off the market by the FDA because it caused cancer, while aspartame is much safer than that. Aspartame's only really notable side effect is if you had an absurd amounts and have certain medical conditions, it can hurt you. It's made with aspartic acid and phenylalanine. There's some other claims made about aspartame, like it can help you with weight loss. According to WebMD, it's a very debatable claim. Story 24, that you need to constantly hustle and grind with no days off if you want to make progress. It took me way too long to figure out that push yourself did not mean push yourself to the point where you're beyond physically and mentally burned out, and I ended up with a permanently damaged shoulder because of it. Story 25, lots of misinformation here, especially regarding protein amounts. The "you're eating too much protein" advice is based on outdated figures from decades ago and is based off the USRDA, which many people know is not ideal for good health, as is the standard food pyramid. Modern studies and meta-studies show no damage to kidneys in healthy individuals, i.e., not having kidney pathologies even at very high protein levels. Story 26: Keto is awful, especially for people prone to high cholesterol or heart disease. People are still pushing low-carb, high-fat diets that almost mess me up permanently. I will never try a fad diet again. Eating balanced like they taught us in school, with lots of fruits, veggies, and whole grains, and moderation on red meat, is best for me. Story 27: that only eating ice cream or cake, junk food, etc., will make you fat. It doesn't matter what you eat. In order to gain weight, you must eat more calories than you burn, or your maintenance calories. Story 28: eating fat won't make you fat. Yeah, it will if you eat a lot of it. Fat is calorie dense. Eat a lot of calories, get fat. Doesn't matter where the calories come from. Story 29: expensive equipment won't make you see results faster. A 10-pound dumbbell made from obsidian rock and blessed by a monk does the same job of a 10-pound bag of dirt. Story 30: so many down through the years. Margarine with saturated fats is healthier than butter. Fat is bad. Low fat is the path to weight loss. Grapefruit burns fat. Eggs increase cholesterol levels and clog arteries. Breakfast is the most important meal of the day. Megadosing vitamins is good for you. Story 31: sugar is evil. Seed oils are evil. Fat is evil. Processed foods are evil. Carbs are evil. Meat is evil. From a health perspective, you can easily be healthy while eating normal portions of all these. The problem is eating too many calories, which is really easy to do through overconsumption of any one of these over-demonized foods. Story 32: sugar does not make children excited. Yes, blah blah, tell me all about your personal experience. Guess what? You're wrong. Sugar does not make your kids bounce off the walls, but the excitement of getting a pixie stick does. It isn't the sugar, it is everything else around the sugar. Kids don't get to eat pure, flavored sugar all that often. It is a special occasion. They get excited because this is out of the ordinary, and probably because you make such a big deal about it. Experiments have been done. It is perfectly possible to give children sugar and have them behave nicely. You just need to set the stage properly. Story 33: Dr. Melik this morning for breakfast, he requested something called wheat germ, organic honey, and tiger's milk. Dr. Aragon chuckling, oh yes, those are the charm substances that some years ago were thought to contain life-preserving properties. Dr. Melik, you mean there was no deep fat, no steak or cream pies or hot fudge? Dr. Aragon, those were thought to be unhealthy. Precisely the opposite of what we now know to be true. Dr. Melik, incredible, for the 1973 Woody Allen comedy Sleeper. Story 34: supplements are not necessary if you don't eat like an absolute trash bin. Diets are bad. Only long-lasting changes of eating habits will get you to the point you desire, without wrecking the body and/or leading to rebounds. The only way to lose weight is calorie use being higher than calorie intake. Everything beyond that is at best a way to achieve this imbalance, at worst counterproductive or unhealthy. The most effective fitness is done during the day, walking or biking to work, walking to get groceries, using the stairs. The gym is great, but should ideally not be the only exercise you get throughout the day. Any amount of alcohol is detrimental. There is no amount that helps the body do anything. You can consume a lot of alcohol, tobacco, coffee, and still be healthier than someone who is stressed 247. Though, stress is a stupidly effective killer for mental and physical health. Story 35: sugars are way worse for your cardiovascular health than people think. People associate sugar with putting on weight and diabetes, but it has far-reaching negative effects on the body if not eaten in moderation. Even skinny people can significantly increase their risk of stroke with excess sugar consumption. It can lead to chronic inflammation and high triglyceride or bad cholesterol levels. Story 36: and road. You do not need all of this double protein. What is this about if you don't have a burn or a wound, or you're a literal bodybuilder and do it for competition short term? You have no idea how you're taxing your kidneys. Good luck with that. Stop listening to your doctors who literally call us to figure it out. Story 37: honestly, if it is information that is 10 years old, it's probably wrong. The amount we learn each year is staggering, and I found that the best way to stay well-informed is watching recent interviews with currently practicing medical experts. For example, this interview with Dr. Bickman, a researcher and teacher that specializes in metabolic disorders, insulin resistance, and fat development. Very interesting listen. In general, and good YT channel if you like listening to different experts in different fields. The interview with Vin John, for example, was great, and made me rethink how I communicate with people, which has both improved my mental health, but also helped me make stronger connections with people. Story 38: that all you need for fat loss is cardio. I figured out a bit too late that combining cardiovascular workouts and strength training was actually the key. Story 39, less calories doesn't mean less food. Some food, ultra-processed junk food, is really calorie-dense relative to its size, its weight, and how full it makes you. So I guess it depends on what you define as more food. But if you define more food as more calories instead of bigger, heavier, and or more filling, you're going to have a harder time eating less calories. If you're trying to lose weight and approach it as I can eat as much food as I like as long as the calories are low enough, ITLL probably be easier. Kind of like a keto diet, I can eat as much as I like as long as the carbs are low enough, except replace carbs with calories. Story 40, carrots and eyesight. Made up by the British in WW2 to explain why RAF pilots were so successful against German planes at night. They ate a lot of carrots. The truth is they had developed radar. Story 41, that stress is normal in certain contexts, such as work, school, relationships, etc. Usually if you get to the point of wondering if you may be too stressed, you are. Unfortunately for me, I have multiple conditions that all worsen due to stress, and in a culture of grind or die, it doesn't always look the greatest when I decide to prioritize rest. Story 42, that you can cure cancer with a specific diet. I've had so many diets pushed on me since diagnosis that it feels like I'm being proselytized to. A nutritious diet can give your body a better chance of maintaining energy levels and recover from treatments better. But there's absolutely no evidence that food cures cancer. Story 43, that everyone needs more protein. Truth is, actual protein deficiency is super rare. It's fiber most people are missing, but there's no big money in marketing broccoli. Story 44, BMI has no connection to health at all. It's also statistics. Do you know how I found out? I swam a mile a day for 8 months. I was in the best shape of my life. I'd stopped eating fast food and drinking soda. I felt great. My doctor could not get past the fact that I was overweight. Story 45, that carbs are the enemy. Myth. Cutting all carbs might lead to quick weight loss, but your brain and body actually need quality carbs like whole grains, fruits, and veggies for energy and mood balance. The key is choosing the right ones, not demonizing them completely. Story 46, this one is going to get me in trouble with some people. But there is no magical ailment which breaks physics. At the end of the day, it's calories in versus calories out. There are things which decrease the rate at which you burn calories, but physics still exists. And if you're fat, no matter who or why, it's because you're eating more than you're burning, period. That's okay if you are. It's your choice, but it is a choice you make every time you open your fridge. Story 47, that carbs, fat, and sugar is all horrible for you, and you should have as little as possible. Too much of anything can be bad for you. Carbs, fats, and sugars all are still important for your body. It's about moderation and balance. Story 48, that you can just exercise your way to weight loss. Over half of the work is done in the kitchen through calories and nutrition. Drives me mad when I'm losing weight without significant exercise and my parents ask me how. I tell them it's just dieting and their mind short circuits and crashes. Then it does the boot up sequence and they tell me I need to exercise more. Repeat every few months. Story 49, you don't need to follow Timmy Tom Dumbfuck's workout regimen and buy 300 supplements to build muscle. Every month there's some stupid new ultimate workout regimen that promises quick results. Eat a variety of foods and lift weights and you'll have the same results. Story 50, cholera isn't actually the result of a bunch of ghosts running around in your blood, and cocaine is generally ineffective as a treatment method. The more you know. Story 51, that fruit sugar fructose is healthier than plain sugar sucrose. It is not. You're not going to be healthier from eating the same amount of sugar from dates or plain sugar. Story 52, that being vegetarian or vegan means you will naturally have lower muscle mass and poor mental concentration. Not true at all. You just need to have adequate protein intake from plant sources alongside a diet with variety, then you can maintain muscle mass as a vegan. But if you live off Oreos, dark chocolate, McDonald's French fries, and tomato ketchup, obviously you're going to be malnourished, but that has nothing to do with being vegan. Story 53, seed oils will not kill you. Lard or other fats like coconut aren't healthier, to the contrary. Olive oil is only marginally better when consumed cold. All the bullshit around it, refining, pro-inflammatory, whatever, is generally bullshit without any foundation and has mostly been disproven for years. Story 54, GMOs are somehow bad for you. Now GMOs are terrible for farmers and our environment and stability of our food supply. Monsanto, essentially owning corn, is evil capitalism at its best, but to think that eating a GMO is somehow harmful would involve not taking high school level biology. Nothing about the genetics of the organism or the proteins those genetics have produced are harmful to you in any way. I suppose if you're a true conspiracy theorist and think they're going to code in some cancer gene, maybe. But they aren't. They just want a proprietary product to sell and make money. Also, they aren't that smart. Story 55 that not every suggestion or piece of advice works the same for everyone. And some people are convinced certain things work by the placebo effect. For me personally, exercise doesn't help my depression, and it doesn't give me energy or make me feel better. My main symptom of depression is fatigue, but exercise also makes me extremely tired. I need a ton of motivation to get up exercise, which is often non-existent due to depression or often exhausted by my job. It's a vicious cycle for me, and I can't stand when exercise is suggested as being my cure to depression. Story 56, oh, I got another one. Alcohol-based hand sanitizer kills everything. Does not. It doesn't kill norovirus, hepatitis, foot and mouth disease, or parvovirus. If don't know, it's basically Ebola for dogs, among others. The biggest issue of them being norovirus. Story 57, that you have to drink 64 ounces, 2 liters of water a day. Unless you're living on saltines and Doritos, you probably get most of your hydration needs fulfilled by the foods you eat. Drinking water can be useful in promoting regularity and in weight loss, also especially useful in avoiding bladder stones. Story 58, that the fat you burn from exercise has a significant impact on weight loss. But of course, exercise is extremely important for your health and does help with weight loss, but not much in terms of burning fat. Story 59, no to low carbs, 1 calories in versus calories out. Unless this is achieved, nothing else matters. 2 protein and fiber intake. Find a way to optimize this in accordance with your goals. You don't need to go crazy with your protein intake. 3 add in carbs and fat to fill and the rest of the calories in accordance to your preference. The best shape I've ever gotten into in my life have always been with a good amount of carbs included in my diet. Story 60, drinking at least 8 glasses of water a day. You get your water needs through the food you eat and the other things you drink. This idea that you need to also drink 8 glasses of water on top of your daily intake of food and liquids is something we have all believed forever. Yet it is not true. Story 61, cardio only helps your heart and won't help lose weight. What helps your heart more is building muscle, because you have this thing called a glycolic furnace. The more muscle you build, the more energy you need to keep it active. You want to lose weight, strength training is where it's at along with caloric restriction. You want to force your muscles to use fat for energy ketosis, and the only 2 ways is glycol restriction and by strength training. Story 62, you have to drink 8 glasses of water a day. No, depending on your size and how active you are, this can be more or less, and it includes liquid in the rest of the food you eat. It's not water by itself, it's water in everything that goes in your mouth. Story 63, you need to cut out cake, burgers, junk food, etc. to lose weight. You just have to eat less than your maintenance. And this one is controversial, but the whole fast-slow metabolism thing is only kind of true. People can have faster or slower metabolisms than others, but it's not as much of a difference as people think. Unless you have a disease like, say, hyper or hypothyroidism, then your metabolism is very similar to everyone else. There isn't that much fluctuation with human metabolism, unless, again, you have a disease. Now, on the other hand, the actually upsetting thing is short people have really low maintenance calories. Story 64, you can never have too much water. This makes me angry. Too much water deranges your electrolytes and affects so many things. Basic cellular function, your heart. If you want to increase fluid intake, do it gradually. Let your body adjust. Story 65, the big foam cushion on running shoes is so unnecessary and actually caused a rise in running-related injuries due to our bodies not being properly adjusted to having such instability under them. Story 66, weightlifting strength training for kids will stunt their growth. Entirely false. It's actually super good for muscle and connective tissue development and helps prevent injuries later in life. Story 67, myth, dietary cholesterol raises your blood cholesterol levels. Truth, dietary cholesterol has little effect on blood cholesterol levels. Saturated fat is the main dietary driver of high cholesterol. Story 68, most health foods are actually horrible for you and full of chemicals, especially in America. Better to stick to whole foods instead of healthy foods. Story 69, soap companies rip you off pretty bad. A bar of soap can create a ton of liquid soap. Water and a small amount of concentrate soap can refill a foaming soap container, hand, or dish. Figuring this out has saved me a ton on soap over the years. This might not be 100 health related, but having a few extra bucks can help you have more resources to make other healthier choices. Story 70, that eating low-fat light diet foods is somehow better for you. Read the ingredients in those types of foods, and there's simply no way they replace fat with sugars and these other weird ingredients that I'm sure your body will reject. It almost angers me to a degree that this is allowed to be sold in major grocery stores. Story 71, do you think the hardest part to lose weight is going to the gym and lifting bar? Wrong, the hardest part is to reduce the intake of your food. Your trainer, your friend, your family will never able to control your intake. 247. Except you are paying for nutrition specialists. This is especially hard if you love to eat foods. Story 72. You don't need to exercise at all to lose weight. The immense majority of the calories you burn are spent on just keeping you alive. Your brain uses a lot of energy. Your body burns a lot of energy to keep your temperature stable. Your gut actually burns a lot of energy digesting food. Same for your other organs. No part of your body works for free. It all costs energy. Just eat less, and weight will come off. That's not to say that exercise is bad. It's had a lot of benefits, but will not see you lose weight unless you also start eating less calories at the same time, and it's the eating less calories that is making you lose weight. I've lost 40 pounds in 3 months by just eating less. I haven't exercised since high school gym class. Story 73. Put butter on a burn. False. Use cool water. If you want to lose weight, you need to exercise. Actually, your diet is more of a factor in your body weight than exercise. We only use 10 of our brain total. Bullshit. There are major genetic differences between a white American and a black man in Nigeria. False AF. There's a much higher degree of variation within large groups such as this than between them. They did an experiment and found that some people in these experiments were a 99 match or more to someone in a totally different continent and culture. Can't teach an old dog new tricks. Also false. Neuroplasticity does not diminish markedly in old age the same as physical endurance. In short, we are always able to form new habits. Story 74. The false statistics about how many people can just throw a 225 bench up. Being able to hit a 225 two plates on each side bench is very impressive and rare for someone in the average weight range, and took a couple years to pull off naturally. Definitely a 1100 for men. Not very many people can pull it off at all. Story 75. The 8 glasses, 2 liters of water a day idea. There's zero scientific evidence to back it up. The color of your pee is a much better guide. If it's pale and clear, you are adequately hydrated. Your liquid intake actually includes what is in the food you eat. The fruits, vegetables, soups, some drinks like tea and coffee all count towards your intake. The amount needed varies from person to person, plus depends on the climate, your activity level, and general health. Story 76. You can sweat out a cold or a fever. What you really need is bed rest and hydrate. Obviously move and stay active, but do not strain your body by working out. If anything, you'll just delay getting better. Story 77. 1. That you need a ton of protein every day. You don't too. The timing of food doesn't matter. It does matter. You shouldn't have heavy meals after sunset. 3. That alcohol in moderation is good for you. False. No amount of alcohol is good for you. Story 78. If you turn into a gym rat fitness nut, then your chronic pain illness would go away. No, working out all the time will not fix the fact that my joint tendomuscles they've been since I was born. Can some exercises help? Possibly. Sometimes doing any activity can cause a pain flare up, and I can't walk properly for a week. It happens more often that, even with physical therapy, that I end up causing my damage to my body by attempting even basic workouts. I'm talking using the elliptical, and then light stretching. Can they magically fix everything wrong in my body? No, they can't stop telling me that if I worked out harder I'd be cured. There's no cure. And that's fine, even though it sucks that I'm 28 and I've had the chronic joint pain of 99-year-old since I was 5. Chronic pain is not caused by not being swole enough. Story 79. Cold food is just as nutritious as hot food. Many foods are more enjoyable eaten warm, but there's a myth that only a hot meal has the needed nutrition. Story 80. To lose weight, you can't eat this or that. You can. As long as you keep your food portions in check, you can eat anything. My weight has remained consistently 48 kilograms over the years. I eat pretty much anything and everything. Story 81. All exposure to the sun is damage. We do produce vitamin D through straight exposure, but after you produce the maximum for that day, after about 10 to 15 minutes, there is no further benefit to being in the sun. People associate tan with health. Please use tanning creams to accomplish this. Exposure to the sun only slowly cooks your skin with UV rays and heat. Think about how they cure leather by letting it sit in the sun. That's what you're doing to your largest organ every time you sit outside without sunscreen. Sounds dramatic, but the truth is you're only increasing your already high chances of cancer at some point in life. Sunscreen Everyday Club. Story 82. Genetically fit people enjoy feeling superior, telling people to copy their lifestyles. That's morally wrong, IMHO. Usually you have to find what works for you. That's life. Use science. A side note, you'll not get 28 Olympic medals eating pizza, smoking weed, etc. Story 83. Products boasting less fat, etc. And people think the product is more healthy because of it, not thinking of the actual total calories. Just because you eat fat does not mean fat is placed on your body. Your body creates fat when you eat too many calories energy. It stores it. Story 84, first thing I learned was wrong was vegans don't get enough protein. Animal products are far from the only protein source. And the myth that vegans are generally protein deficient is just that, a myth. There's also that pyramid of Maslow. It was taught everywhere. Another thing is animal products being good for you. They're generally not. Not to mention that producing them is horrifyingly inefficient and wasteful, which is bad for our collective health and the health of the planet. Something close to 80 of agricultural land is used for animal products, and yet they contribute under 20 to the overall caloric supply. To protein supply, it's somewhere between 30 to 40, which is better but still really inefficient. Story 85 for me. It's MSG. I was born in 80 and raised in the South, a notoriously anti-intellectual sector of the U.S. This meant that new information that contradicted our previously held beliefs or knowledge was outright rejected without a second thought. It wasn't until I regained my skepticism and critical thinking in my late teens, early 20s that I learned that all of the things I was taught about MSG are just outright lies and based on racism. Story 86, that the way to lose weight is not some specific diet low carb. If vegan, whatever the way to lose weight is to cut caloric intake. If you eat too many calories during your intermittent fasting time, you'll gain weight. If you eat a ton of low-carb calories while on the low-carb diet, you'll gain weight. If you're taking Miracle Diet, Pill X, and eat a lot of calories, you will gain weight. With almost every weight loss regimen being pushed out there, you will see buried somewhere in the talk about it. They will mention proper nutrition and exercise is essential to whatever they are selling, recommending. Before I get hammered by, but I lost X pounds by doing Y, diet great. If or low carb or whatever helps you to cut your caloric intake, then keep it up. But just know that your diet succeeded because it helped you consistently cut your caloric intake, not because you ate a certain type of calorie or only ate your calories at a certain time. Story 87, you don't need as much protein as you think. I've been vegetarian for 11 years and I've never gone out of my way to get protein. Yet it is always the first question I'm asked. Sure, I eat peanut butter, beans, tofu, and nuts, but not in great quantity. I'm more fit, toned, and muscular than ever. My most recent blood work was spectacular. I believe everyone's perception of protein has been the result of successful marketing by corporations.